there to say on this good lovely morning? Well guys, back to the C10 question mark problems. Well, let's see, I don't think I posted the video on it. I was planning on making one and then I deleted it because things went south. As you can see, I got my wrench in my hand. So it all started was I cleaned a bunch of firewood out of the back of my truck. I decided to take it for the drive, and this wheel brake was locking and it was pulling to the side. So I got it back to my house, took off the wheel, took a look at the caliper, and the caliper appeared to be what's known as frozen because I couldn't even move it without the wheel on it. So I ended up ordering a new caliper, used the old brake pads, put the brake pads on with the new caliper, never done it before in my life, bled it possibly the wrong way, and once I leave my driveway, mind you, I still have brakes everywhere else, so it's not like I'm rolling around in neutral, and I hit the brakes, you know, I was doing maybe 5-10 miles an hour, it instantly would start pulling again. Bring it back home, take the wheel off again, and I couldn't get it to release. So I got to list a couple different things I'm going to do, and I'm going to run down that list with you guys, and then I'm going to start jacking off the wheel, and I'm going to just do trial and error with you guys and see if we get somewhere. Because in case somebody's having this issue where they did brake calipers on their Chevy truck, or they did it for the first time like I did, and it's still sticking and it's a brand new caliper, it could be multiple reasons. One of the big reasons, and I don't want to stick this on the hood of my truck, is that if you see inside the cab, my parking brake, now I just did this recently because I thought this was falling down and stuff. Every so often I accidentally kicked this thing getting in. And I think what happened was that days I kicked it, hit it in, because I remember the brake light came on. And you can see how this is loose and it doesn't go back in on itself. It's not tight here. It's actually not really tight enough to keep that from moving. But when I pull it, it's usually it goes doink and it springs back and it's not doing it. Now I had that problem on this truck many years ago when I had come back from a trip and I was on a boat. You know, brought my truck onto this big ferry boat, and you have to put the parking brake on, and I released the parking brake, went to go drive off the boat, and I couldn't move the truck at all. Now what's weird is that I could move this truck no matter what, but I don't know if it's because of the amount of power that's in it, where it just kind of ignores that brake, you know, the front and rear brakes, because those are drums and those are rotors, or it's just that maybe that brake line from the parking brake locked the front end. Because here's another issue. I didn't realize it until I took off the driver's side wheel. And the driver's side wheel is as tight as the passenger side wheel now. So that doesn't make any sense. And I think I was mainly focusing on that wheel, and I didn't realize that one was pulling, because it would pull this way and then it would pull the other way. And I just thought it was in my head, but apparently it's not. So that's number one. We're going to go under the truck and look for the parking brake line and see if that's it, and then disengage it. The second one that we're going to do is when the wheels are off, obviously, we're going to take the caliper. Now, there's a couple different things you can do. I'm going to show you guys. But I'm going to wait for this stupid plane to go by. Okay. So I'm going to take the slider pins off the caliper, and I'm going to show you guys that as well. And I'm just going to double check that they're greased. I'm going to do that with the other side and see if that releases that one, or it's just pure dumb luck, comical stupidity. Now, I was talking to a guy I work with about how to release the caliper, and it was, I might have to call him mid-video while I'm doing this, but there was something about, he had said to me that I would open up my brake booster on top. Oh, that's what it is. It's the compressing of it. So we're gonna check the parking brake line first. Number two, we're gonna take, obviously both wheels are gonna be off, and we're gonna look at what's going on with the brakes themselves. Make sure the bleeder screw is on tight. It might be loose, it may not be, it shouldn't be, but that's always another thing to look at. Next, we're gonna look at the sliders on them, make sure the sliders are good. I know these sliders are good. I'm going to look at those sliders to see if that's what disengages that one. The other one is that we're going to take off the caliper, take off the pads, and then you put, what is it? You put like a wrench, you put like a socket inside the cylinder, and you put like a clamp on it, and you clamp it down with the top of that oil reservoir open on the truck. I might as well pop the hood now so I can show you guys what you're talking about. What I'm talking about, not what you're talking about. You ain't talking about shit. You think I'm out of my mind at this point. Because I'm running down the list of like 9 million things. Because sooner or later it's going to be one of these. And the final thing is that if I cross off the list of everything under the sun, and I've tried everything under the sun, and it's still acting up, then there's a good possibility it needs a new brake caliper. And that one might be defective. So this will get popped open. Now there's still fluid in here, so it's good. You know, you always want to make sure that there's fluid in it. You can see the lines on here and here, okay? This, I don't know why there's electrical tape on it. I know this was repaired by another shop at one point in time. So that kind of worries me a little bit. Why is there electrical tape on it? I think they're just covering over a fitting, but let's just leave that for the last thing to really look at on the truck. So we're going to open this up when the caliper's out, and we're going to clamp it tight so that it pushes the fluid back up through the line to the caliper. I mean, up the caliper is going to push, the fluid's going to push the caliper up to the reservoir. The fluid is going to go up back to the reservoir, and as I release it, it should release the caliper back out, and it should be fine. If that doesn't do it, then I'm going to put the brakes back on, put it back on here, and then I'm going to redo the brake bleeding system. And that I relearned by talking to my coworker, and I started realizing I think I kind of did it a little bit ass backwards. So he was telling me is what I end up doing is I have someone sitting in the driver's seat. They pump the brake, and then they hold it hard. As they're holding it, and they don't release it until you tell them, you crack the bleeder screw, it gets the air out, and then you close it and you tell them to release it. You don't let them release with the bleeder screw open, and I think I did that a couple times. That might be why I'm having this weird, because it's not all the time it's locking up. See, it would lock up and then it would loosen, then it would lock up. Like, why is it not locked up in my driveway and then it loosened on its own? So it's kind of like a little intermittent, so it might have some air in the lines, is what I'm really thinking. So once you do that step like 3 or 4 times until you get that brake and rotor to move the way you want it to. So right now I'm going to rip these wheels off this truck, and then we'll get down to jumping down, looking at the different wheels and seeing exactly what's going on with them. So let's look at the driver's side right now. And you can see with the driver's side that I'm trying to push down and it's tight. You know, get out of here. That one's really tight. And now I'm going to go to the passenger side, which was the one in question originally. And this one's a little looser than that one. So now I'm going to go hunt down the brake lines from the parking brake cable and see where they connect onto for here. Now, one of the interesting things is that, you know, I don't see a cable at all. So I honestly don't think that I'm going to have a parking brake cable on this truck, honestly, because all I see is one line going to it. You know, one line, which is a brake fluid line, which is here. I don't see any other like wires or lines running to it. So those parking brake lines might end up just going to the back end of the truck, and that might not be anything that's connected with it. But like I said, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to go check that really quick, and I'll let you guys know. Alright guys, so I looked it up online instead of crawling under the truck, and found the multiple websites, including LMC Truck, the wiring diagram for the brake lines, and they only go to the rear for the parking brake lines. So I'm not even going to crawl into the truck and deal with that. 2 things I wanted to show you. So here's your slider pin. There's one on top of here. You can just about barely see, but you can see this one better. And what it is a 3/8 Allen key. Now, it's really cheap to go to the auto parts store and buy an assorted set of these that fit right into your socket. Makes your life a lot easier. If you're also taking these off for the first time, which is not the first time for me, I would suggest to spray some penetrating oil in here, so you're looking like in between the caliper and the bar. So you got, you got the caliper here, and you got the back end that the rotor mounts on, the fucking caliper mounts onto. It's threaded screws. So what I did is when I first diddled with these, I sprayed some crow oil on them, the top and bottom ones, for about, let them sit for about 5 minutes before I started messing with them, because I didn't want to break them off or shear them, because I saw that they only had like maybe that much thread on them, and that'd be a real pain in the ass to get that broken off. So like they always say with anything, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Okay, I'll make sure it's in there, push it all the way in so it gets nice in there. You could just pop it with your hand. You don't need a hammer or nothing. If you're using a hammer, you're doing something wrong. I'll tell you that right now. This stuff is not tight to that extent. I'd also suggest too that you have something to put these in. You don't want to get dirt and gunk on them. I'm going to re-grease them before I put them back in. So we're going to take this off. And once you get it down off enough, get that out, you can see how it will unscrew. Now you can see where that slider, see it's got a little gunk and grease in there. So I'm going to really try to clean that out before I reinstall it. But you can see here's the slider pin that's on here. Okay, and this slider pin sits on here and it slides back and forth. It's supposed to slide back and forth. This is supposed to slide on it, this unit. You can see how it's going to get a little gunky and stuff from some of that dirt and grease, and that's only been on there for just one road trip. So I'm going to really thoroughly, once I take this all apart, I'm going to really saturate it nice with brake cleaner, and that'll help remove all that gunk and shit. Now some people put a tray, I really don't. My driveway is beat up, and you know, I probably should put a pan under here, but I had a pan. I don't know what I did with it. But I'm just going to put this up here for now. It's not the best spot, but it's better than being on the ground. Grab the other one that's up here too. Same thing like I did before. As I put it in there, actually this time I just grabbed the side of the caliper to get some leverage on it. And just ratchet it out. Oh, hard to find a spot to kneel over here. Alright. That slid out nice. I don't know why that one grabbed the slider pin. That could be also part of my issues too. So now that's all nice and out. Normally you would have taken that brake line off the back first. Now even if you take the slider pins out first, you always want to make sure you grab that brake line before you pull the caliper off, because it's going to be a pain in the ass to try to remove that nut on there, especially if it's been on there for a while. So now you just kind of push on it lightly, just wiggle it out. Now you don't want to break that line unless you got new lines like I have. Now a lot of times people say you can just rest it on. It's really hard to find a spot to rest this sucker, so I'm just going to kind of like rest it back here, pull out my pads, which have plenty of meat on them. It's not the pads causing problems, it's something else causing problems. So put my pads off to the side. We want to stick this in a better spot. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to just leave that there. Do a little battery change. Alright guys, so you can see how far the cylinder is sticking out of the caliper. So what we got here is we got a socket, we got our vise, or clamp actually. I don't have the vise, but I have a clamp, a little bit big, so it's going to be a little bit big one to wrestle. So I'm going to open up that top, and I'm going to put the socket on the end of here inside, and we're going to push this cylinder. We're going to push this cylinder back in, and as you do that, the fluid's going to go back up to that tank. And then we're going to put it on and see if that helps with our issue with that as well. Another thing he was telling me is make sure the vehicle's running. So I'm going to have to start this up as well. Get this truck up and running, because this takes a while sometimes to get it to run on its own. So once it's on its own, then it's going to be good. But I do want to go in here, and you can kind of see like the rusty grease and shit. I want to get in here and clean that stuff out before I reassemble this whole unit. Alright guys, so the cylinder went back in. I sprayed it with brake clean, as you can see. It's all nice and clean now. Let me flip my camera down so I can see it. It's all nice and clean, that's all nice and clean. So now what I'm going to do is reinstall the pads and re-grease up the slider pins and this pin, that washer here, that kind of got a little stuck inside of it for some weird reason. So I guarantee you that's not helping any of the situation. But I would say from here on out, I would say if you want, I would say put gloves on, have a rag nearby, because this can get pretty nasty. Okay guys, so we got that all reinstalled. As you see, I kind of wiped the ends a little bit. I try to keep my grease level down to a minimum. We got everything in. Always the first thing you want to do is when you're putting the bolts, these slider pins back in, just make sure everything lines up really nice. Otherwise things are just going to not touch right. And it slides a lot better. I hear it hitting. I don't really know if that's normal, but the next step from here is to do the bleeding, which involves me having, who I'm going to have is my mother inside today. She's going to be with the engine running. Hopefully she can hear me from down here. I'm going to tell her to pump the brakes, push it to the floor. I'm going to release this, and then don't release the pedal until I tighten this back. And then we're going to do that several times, hopefully to actually see some of this fluid finally actually coming out of here the right way. And then hopefully this one will be good to go. And if it's just this one, and then we got to do the next one, it's just going to be the same thing. I'm going to take that whole caliper off, push that fluid back, and then that's it. And hopefully that fixes it. If not, then I've ran out of complete and other fucking options. I really have. And it would be somebody else that I know coming over helping me, and maybe he'll be, you know, energetic to get on camera or some shit. Who knows? Alright, so now that the truck is running, I'm going to get my tool that I need to release it. Sometimes it's a little flaky, so sometimes I got to use a wrench instead. This one has a really shitty piece on it, so sometimes I'll use a box, or I'll use like a wrench. Or worst case scenario, I'll use a socket. You don't really want to use any of that. But the problem is that this one, ever since I fucked with it, it's a little tough for me to loosen. So sometimes this doesn't work, sometimes this doesn't work, and I gotta grab a socket. I know it's like sucks, but it works and it tightens and loosens, but it could be a real pain in the ass. So we're gonna do that right now. Alright, I'm ready for you. Get ahead. Up to 4 times. I'm nervous, so she fucking hits the accelerator instead. think I might have squirted myself with brake fluid. Try not to squirt myself again. Release! Get out. Alright, so that was fun. I didn't realize when someone says it squirts or shoots out. That was a surprise that I was not waiting for, not expected. I thought he meant by like a little stream. This sucker, I don't know if you guys caught that on camera or you heard me scream like a little girl, but that shit's caught me off guard really quick. So that's good. I'm seeing brake fluid. So that's good. I'm just gonna make sure this sucker's nice and tight. Can't even fucking tell anymore because the way this thing sits. So I'm just going to grab my socket head. That's a 10 millimeter, and I'm just going to make sure the socket on is tight. Alright, so she's nice and tight. We're going to leave this one alone. And as you can see, it spins. I don't like, it still has that like grindy sound, but the guy said that's normal. I always felt like in my life brakes were supposed to kind of be not holding on to the rotor. But like I said, this is always all new to me. Now when we go to this problem child over here, so we see how easy that one moves? This one, I gotta almost, I can't fucking move it. This one won't even move now, since we did that braking on it. So, what I'm going to end up doing is, I'm going to try to do that same thing with the clamp system. I'm going to take this unit off, and I'm going to do that whole clamping on it as well, like I did before. Grease up everything, and then we'll bleed this one next. This is the driver's side one. So to see from my own perspective, I'm going to grab my mother over here, have her show you guys. Can you come here, Ma? Put on a pair of gloves, because I don't know how you are with these oils. She has one of those allergic reactions to certain oils. So people like that, it's always good for them to wear gloves.
3-in-1 splits my fingers.
Well, 3-in-1 splits her fingers. Whatever is in it's probably because of the petroleum that's in it. These don't have petroleum, but it doesn't hurt because we really rather not have your hands black like this. Even after I wash them for several days, my hands are still blacky. So I'm going to have you grab onto that rotor. So you're going to grab on here, right, onto the bolts, and then just spin it to the right, just so you guys can see it. Okay, so she can move that. Okay, you can let go, Ma. How old are you?
73.
73. A 73-year-old woman was able to move that rotor. Now, I'm 32, and I can't move this rotor. And you're going to see that really quickly.
I'm going to move it. Here we go. It was so fast. Look how fast I moved it.
See the difference?
Oh, this won't even budge.
It won't budge. So, this one, like I did with that last one, I'm going to take off the pins in the back here. I'm going to take those out, clean them, I'm going to clean the slider pins, slider bearings that are inside. Then this unit I'm going to rest on the side, and I'm going to put the brake cleaner and brake clean everything as well. While that stuff's drying, I'll be doing the slider pins in case they got a lot of rust and crust on them and stuff. So that's going to be the next one, and then once that's done and it's all reassembled hopefully, and then also if I have to, I'll push that back inside with that clamp that I was doing before that was a real pain in my ass. Once I get that inside and I get everything reinstalled, we'll refire up the truck and we'll bleed these brakes, and hopefully we'll get some daylight in this fiasco that I'm dealing with. And if nothing else fails, then I don't know what else to do from here other than ask my buddy from work to come over and assist me, and if him and I both can't figure it out, then I'll send her to the mechanic shop so that he could play with her, so I have 2 square bodies there instead of just one that's currently still there. Anyway guys, I'm going to do that now, and then I'll be back for the firing up and bleeding those brakes. Alright, go ahead. 4 times and then to the floor. Hold? Okay. I really gotta work the step. Yeah, it went all the way to the floor. Turned in. I don't remember which way it goes now because I got straight again. No. I ran out of vision. Release. You're off? Good. Yeah. No, good. No, I need to keep my head away from where it squirts out. Alright. Or it's snow. I can't see. You know, flag is really sometimes. What? Put the flag fishing view on. It's in the way sometimes. You're not out here. When the wind blows you. Okay, that's better. Now, give me a second. It's also a little dirty. Double pump? Not double. 4 pumps and then to the floor. Hold it. Oh! I think I got some in my mouth. Let go. I'm gonna kill Charlie when I see him. As you can tell, it apparently squirts.
It's excited.
It's exciting. Alright guys, so obviously you caught that twice since the last one. I still can't figure out where to stick my head before it squirts. But now I'm going to put the wheels back on. I'm going to go for a little test drive and hopefully this fixes it. Otherwise, I'll be doing this again tomorrow because it's getting pretty freaking cold to keep messing around with this thing. And after smashing my finger earlier with the jack that decided to let go at the wrong time, it's been really pissing me off on top of other things. But I'm going to throw the wheels back on, make sure this is nice and tight, which it is. Make sure the other one's nice and tight as well. Throw those wheels back on, go for a drive, and hopefully there's success. If not, I'll have my buddy over tomorrow, and if he's willing to go on camera, yes. If not, then he will relay it to me, and you'll see my ugly face, and hopefully I will get covered in less brake fluid. Or not. Doesn't really matter. It's just fluid. Doesn't matter. It's just a weird liquid. My finger really hurts. And what's stupid is that I banged my hand just lightly trying to jack it up earlier. But let's get down to putting the wheels on and move on to the next stage of this fun little excitement of figuring out what is going on with my brakes. And like they always say, always keep an eye on your brake fluid. So I still have plenty of brake fluid in here. It's kind of hard to really tell. But I do. Is it filled up all the way? No, sort of. I'm on a slanted driveway, so it makes the fluid level look a little wonky, whatever they call it. But I'm going to start putting those wheels back on. Guys, so we're inside the C10 right now. We're going to go for that moment of truth. Inside the truck, we did the brakes, and I got a little bit of an issue. trying to get out of my driveway. Oh, there's a Dodge. Dodge with the Chevy. It's not like I do this all day long. Not at all. Tell you one thing though, the heat works really good in this truck. I never really tried it this much, but good lord is it hot in here. And I got the windows down too. Good for me. Alright, so we just backed out of the driveway. And it feels like it pulls a little bit to the right. Let me try it again. Go for a little drive with it and see if it keeps pulling. Full stop. Hard to tell, you know, it could be a mixture of the wheels need to be balanced. Oh man, someone's grilling. Man, somebody's grilling in my neighborhood. It feels like it pulls, you know, like I let go of the steering wheel. I don't know if you guys can see it from here. I'll stop and readjust the camera. I really need to see this. That. So it's hard to tell, but it looks like it pulls to the right. Not really the straightest road. Feels like it pulls a little. But that also could be the road itself. You know, my road is sitting like this. Before it was like really grabbing it. Now it's really not grabbing it at all. And actually the steering wheel, I held it to the left and it's staying. Good, with a lot of stop signs in my neighborhood. I feel like it's yanking it a little bit. You know, I feel like when I kind of like, it's hard to tell, like I said, you know what, the angle of the road and everything and the bumps, it's really hard to really test anything out here. You know, yeah, you're in sort of line. See, that time I let go of it, yanked it that way, but then it let go of it. Stop. Yeah, it feels like it's still pulling. But that was a pothole. I just hit a pothole and it dragged the wheel to that side. And then it's sitting straight. chilling it, you know, like I'm trying to drive in the center, you know, where it's not like, it doesn't have that stupid, it's not that pitchness. So I know that pitchness will fuck up like any vehicle. You make you feel like you're driving to one side of the road when you're not. You can make it. Well, it's not pulling to the left, which is good. It's still got that yank to the right. You can see it, like I'll hold it, I'll put it to the left over here, and I let go of it, and it's going to go to the right. I don't need to fall between the back seat. Alright, so it's kind of hard to tell, you know, the roads that are over there, you know, they got that pitchness in the center. It's really hard to really determine exactly if everything is running right. What you want to do is feel the wheel. This is cold, that's how it should be, okay? Now let's feel the one that I think is still pulling. And I see a little smoke coming out of here, and it's hot. So it's a lot warmer. It's not pulling as bad, but it's still warmer. And I can see a little smoke coming out, so we have not completely figured out what's going on with this wheel. But it's coming from behind of it, and I don't know if you guys can see it. It's really hard to tell. I saw it when I walked up to it. I could see a little bit of smoke from the hot brake pad or the rotor or whatnot. But it's definitely hotter on this side. This side, it's not hot to the point where I can't hold it, but the rim is warm. And then, you know, if the rim is warm, the lug nuts are definitely got some heat on them. The bearing section definitely has got some heat, but not as bad as the nuts. So it's still sticking enough where it's getting warm. So I'm gonna call quits for today. Text my buddy, let him know that I'm still getting a little bit of heat out of that one wheel. Driver's side's great, no heat at all, no pulling, but definitely the passenger side is still getting hot. So maybe he has the idea of it, or it needs a new caliper or a new line, or who knows what it is. I can see the steam and smoky steamness coming off of it. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but I could see definitely the steam or the heat coming off. So mystery continues. Yep. Alright guys, so the final wrap up of this video with the Chevy C10 brake line caliper sticking issue. So I had a co-worker of mine, he came over, and I didn't film it because it was pouring rain, and as we all know, sometimes when you're trying to do stuff, filming is a real pain in the ass. So we ended up needing to buy a new bleeder screw. I'm trying to see if you guys can see that back here. Well, I can't see with the camera, but we needed a new bleeder screw. We ended up putting on a new brake line. So here's a new brake line, okay? And what ended up happening was we're trying to get the bleeder screw to loosen, and because it was already burred up and screwed up and stuff, he said, you know, let's go buy a new brake bleeder screw. See if I could find it over here in my land of the lost. Oh, let's see. Oh, that's a new one. Mike's already dropping shit. There it is. Alright, so as you can see here with the bleeder screw, you can see how it's like kind of... I'm waiting for this camera to autofocus here. Come on. Well, anyway, I'm not going to keep fighting with it because it's being a pain in my ass right now, but nevertheless, it's hard to see it, but you guys know what a screw looks like when it's all burred off. You'll see that one, right? That's the new one. You can see how nice and clean the edges are on it. And this one's so burred off that, well, anyway, so it takes a 10mm wrench to get it off, and it just wasn't working for us. So what we ended up doing was we went out to the auto parts store and we bought a new one. So I'm going to keep the old one with the new one, and stick it in my pile of miscellaneous truck parts. So that was one item. The second item was what I got from Rock Auto, which was from AC Delco. There's the box right there. Is a new brake line. I think it was like $3 or $5, some shit like that. It was really cheap. I bought two of them in case I wanted to do the other one. But it comes in the kit. It's got everything you really need. It's got two washers, but it doesn't have a nut for this end, so make sure you save your nut on that one. In case you guys are doing the brake line, make sure you save that nut, or just buy a new nut for it. But it has, you know, this hose, and then it has that E-clamp or C-clamp, whatever you want to call them, the clip that's on there. So you make sure you want to keep all that together. Try to find a home for this. I gotta build a new shelf in here. With all these trucks and cars, I've run out of room for their part boxes, which is now what the Camaro has turned into, as a shelf for that. So I gotta buy another one of these stupid shelves. I want to put it here, but it might be because this is my storage spot. It might be in the way, so that has nothing to do with this video. But anyway, so we did the brake line on it. Definitely it's a two-guy job to do that. And we took it out for a drive, and she's not sticking, she's not pulling to one side. It actually rolls better than it has in a long time. Doesn't feel like it has a drag on it anymore, so that's really good. So it's that brake line. Now you'll notice that when you look at it, it's right where that attachment is that you saw on the inside of the wheel well, and then the bolts, or not the bolts, but the lock nuts and the washers are like right on the other side of that little chrome piece, right on the other side of that on the frame. It's a real pain in the ass to get to. I would say for one guy, two guys definitely. Once we got it off, you know, was switching it out, putting the new one on, and then that was it. And we also did was we put a clamp. We put a clamp on the caliper, kind of like I was doing the other day. So we closed the caliper in, just like you know, you open up the master, you close that in, you close the master. So we did that. We put the brakes on, we re-bled it. Did like I think we did 3 or 4 rounds of bleeding, and then took it out for a test drive. And I'm going to do that again with you guys. I just want to do a battery change before we go out for a test drive. So we're going to do that, and then we check the temps of everybody by just touching it, and obviously it doesn't pull, so it's going to be fine. Go take it out for a little cruise, And so you guys can see with my hand off the wheel that it's not pulling at all like it did in the previous clip that I did for that test drive before. So let's go do that now. Alright guys, so we're going to position you inside the cab like we did before. Try to sit behind me so that you can see the steering wheel. So you guys can see my steering wheel. My wipers only have one speed, and it's go. Easy truck. Drive through a fence now. Snaking out of my driveway is an understatement. Tight squeeze, but that's okay. Oh, switch was strangling me. Alright, so take the hand off my wheel, and of course, like I said, my road, the way it is, it's going to kind of go where it wants to go, but actually yesterday it was really pulling that quick to the right. Okay, there we go. Put it idle down a little bit. Slowly put my foot on the brake is what we did. That was the first thing he had me do. Slowly ease up to the stop sign. My foot on the brake, come to a stop. My foot's off the brake, my hand's off the wheel, and put my foot on the accelerator. Of course, my road curves, and I got people coming at me head on. I have to grab the wheel for this, but we'll go down to the end and do a U-turn. Now, right now, I'd be feeling it like yanking to that side. So, as you can tell, once I have my foot off the accelerator, I mean my hand off the steering wheel, it's not pulling at all. Stop canoeing. Boom, 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 boom. Pick up the speed. We'll hit the next stop sign. Brake pedal feels nice. You know, it's not stopping right away. It's not, doesn't feel like it's grabbing, you know, not grabbing the wheel out of my hand like I was doing a little bit. And, you know, I let my hand off the wheel and it goes nice and straight. As straight as I can go in a neighborhood where the roads curve constantly. But, you know, it's going to move a little bit with these potholes. That's normal. You're gonna get that every time you hit a bump or a hole. You know, the wheel's gonna move a little bit. But it was like tugging it. You know, like I'd have to pull it away to the left, and it would constantly keep tugging. So, you know, you guys can go as far as you want as a road test. I'm not gonna keep driving it around because it's Sunday morning, and well, it's Sunday at 11 o'clock. So I mean, people should be awake. But I like to start editing this video so I can post it out to you guys today. But that's it. I mean, she was back to running nice. You know, like I said, I put my hands there. You guys can see the steering wheel. It's not moving. Sit more on this side so you guys can see it better. To a complete stop. Foot on the gas. Hit a pothole. Pulls the wheel a little bit. That's it. I mean, that's really phenomenal. It was great that it turned out that it was the brake line. Now, it could have been the caliper and the brake line at the same time, but I started off with the caliper because I felt like that was the most logical reason of what was going on, and doing it for the first time, it was really like nerve-wracking because anything that comes down to braking systems, I don't like touching. Like brakes and wheels, I really don't like touching, because if the lug nuts don't go back on right, or you know, the brakes don't get properly adjusted the right way, I feel like I'm gonna have this like catastrophe that now I'm gonna get stuck with, and then I'm gonna be like wishing I never did anything. But I mean, it's definitely, I'm not having any issues at all. So snake back over here where I was. My windows were fogging up. Hard to see when you got foggy mirrors. Up there. So that's it, guys. That's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. You like it, you subscribe, you share it with your friends. You know, if you have any questions, please ask. In case I miss something, I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. Like I said, I don't really do brakes at all. This is something I stay away from because I'm terrified that if I don't do something right, I'm going to end up driving through my neighbor's fence again. And that was because the brake line burst by the, I guess, the master cylinder unit. And I had absolutely no front and rear brakes. It was completely, I was shit in the water, and I just went boom, boom, into his fence. And luckily there was no damage to my truck, and all I did was bend his fence back that was rusted out. But so I usually like to stay away from that stuff. Taking the wheels off, putting them back on really isn't the hardest thing. It's just another thing that I'm always like, don't really like messing with, but I don't mind taking them off. It's not like the end of the world for me. It's more or less of the brakes that was like really nerve-wracking. Like if I didn't bleed them the right way, but then I was learning with these trucks that even if I didn't bleed the front the right way, that front caliper, it wouldn't affect the back brakes. But it's not something I want to rely on. I want to make sure that everything is done the right way, so I don't have a catastrophe down the road. So anyway, like I said, guys, this is the end of that video. Enough rambling. You guys don't want to listen to me anymore. You probably moved on to the next video. Some girl shaking her booty in front of you. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, and please comment below if you have any questions or concerns or any other knowledge or anything you want to throw towards me. I see a lot of guys, they do their hubs. I didn't do my hubs. I didn't really feel like I had the need to do so. I guess I kind of should have or could have, but I was more concerned with the vehicle stopping more than making sure the hubs had enough grease and stuff in them. And usually about once every 2 years I have the, or 3 years, whatever it is, I got to look at that service log. I usually have the hubs on there greased up anyway, so that would probably be the only concern I would say somebody would probably say to me. But otherwise, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Sometimes this garage door just doesn't want to shut. And hopefully at some point in time I can get all this crap off the Camaro. And I got new mirrors for my Dodge Ram because I got a crack. So that's going to be in a video of me showing you guys how to do that. But on a day where it's not raining and it's not Sunday.